was just thinking about trading psychology just now, a very important part, as we all know. The fact is, I was up at just after midnight last night, and I saw what was happening up here, and I thought, oh yes, it's going to go down. And I was thinking, well, it could go down to at least here. But then I thought to myself, well, you know, what kind of a state am I in? I really don't think it's a good idea to trade right now. At the time, it was just after midnight here. And I found that I couldn't really identify as clearly and as naturally as I'd like to have done the situation. And so I left it. This morning I got up rather late, and I noticed that yes, it had started to drop, but there'd also been this big retracement up here. So one of the things that I find strangely is that if you do trust your intuition, and it's sometimes a difficult thing to trust, it will give you the right result. So it wouldn't have been much point in me getting into a trade up here, because it actually, the trade started here, which was this morning. So I got into part of this trade down here, but I thought, okay, I've only just switched on the charts. I noticed that it was setting up nicely on the 90. It had done this set and retraced back up through it and was now going down through this one. So I just traded to this line on the 90 and then got out, because I knew, thanks to the framework, that it was going to bounce there. I got out of there. It's still relevant that it will still go down to at least this point here, 4756. If we have a look at the 90, where is that on the 90? Oh, it's not particularly on the 90, so again, we know that it's probably going to drop off the 90 as it slows, or it's going to go further. I haven't really had a look at the charts yet. I've been a bit distracted, so my psychology tells me just wait until I am absolutely clear about what is happening. I'll look at the charts again in a few minutes and then make a decision as to where it's going. And as normal, as I always tell people, I'll look around the 236, the 382, the 1000, see where the important barrier is there. It's 4615, and eventually come to a conclusion about exactly where this is going. But I'm not going to go against my instincts right now, where I feel, oh yes, it's going to go down, but I don't know where it's going to go to. So I've got to wait. I've got to think it through, allow the information to come to me, and then I'll go into the trade. Now I've had a chance to look at the charts properly, and you can see we still haven't moved very far because of that barrier there. So you actually have time to make these assessments. You know, if you feel rushed, don't do it. That's the simple rule I have. So I'm going to trade down to the bottom of this set, to this purple line here, because that looks like where it's going to go. 4612, 4619, and on the 1000 we've got 4615, and down here we've got somewhere between the two, but I would imagine that it will go down to this 4613. It's on the edge of 3 or 4 sets. It's also on the 1000. It's a strong barrier. So not is it going to stop there, but it's going to be attracted there as well. Along the way, the framework is showing you exactly where to expect those little retracements. But why, for instance, did it stop here? Well, there's a barrier on the 90, which is also the bottom of the set on the 56. So it's going to pause there for a little bit before it goes down through the gap here. So there you have it. You've achieved down through the gap here, and it's carrying on, so no need to get out of the trade. It's going faster and faster, so let's take a look at the 382 and see where it is there. It has just gone through the gap on the 382, so this is interesting. It's actually not got stuck on that barrier, but we made a very nice trade down through the gap there on the 56 to the end of the set on the 90, and we have a barrier on the 382. It's the end of the 236 set. It's the end of the 146 set. This morning, this was a very quick assessment. We found a point that we absolutely knew it was going to. If we stay with the charts a bit longer before we get into the trade, I'm sure we'll be able to analyze the final destination for this move, because the absolute Fibonacci is telling us it's just a question of tuning into this. And as I said right at the beginning, the psychology of how you work with the framework is absolutely paramount to how you succeed with it. If you just go quickly into a trade without really looking at what's going on in the framework, then you can come unstuck, obviously, just like any system. But if you really check it out, spend some time on it, and wait for it to tell you where it's going, then you will have all the answers. At the moment, I'm happy with what's happened just now. I just basically got up, had a shower, and had my breakfast and come back to it, and the trade is done. That's the way I like to trade. Yes, you can be clever, you can be a pitmeister, or you can say, yes, well, I worked it out and it can go a lot further. Okay, probably can, no problem, good for you. The beauty about this framework is the certainty that it gives you on certain moves allows you to put more lots in than if you were trading a different system, probably. So you can trade very, very certainly with lots of lots over short distances, which is a lot easier than trying to predict the big ones. Another point I'd like to make about being certain. It's a real luxury with this framework to be that certain when you're making a trade. Sometimes you get a candlestick that just hits a line for a second or two, but if you've put a limit in there, you can catch the trade before it retraces. And this often happens. It happened the other day. It was pulled to this line here, but it only stayed there for seconds on the 1000 chart. That blue candlestick there only hit that line for a few seconds. However, if you had been working with the framework, you'd have known that that was a point it was going to be attracted to, and you could have got in and out of a trade successfully. The last thing I'd like to say about this particular move, now, when we were looking around the barriers, you will remember that we didn't identify the 4615 as being a particularly strong barrier at the bottom of the 236. This is often a clue that it's going to carry on. So we didn't put a limit in there, and we just let it run. If you're looking at this trade right now, in conclusion, you should be out of it by now, because it's actually done what we expect it to do in a typical situation like this. With this configuration up here, it will go down through two sets and a gap. It's actually gone through two gaps, so we've had a good run on this one. Let's see how it develops during the day, and you'll see that it's sprung back to the top of that 236 set. It's springing back a bit now around this barrier here. What we need to do now is sit back, reevaluate, see what the charts are telling us, and then think about a new trade. But now is not the time to get into one or stay in one if you're on a sell.